can you kindly elaborate for us what is riba and what is the difference between interest or usury?
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Brother Muhammad, and everybody at Taif for inviting me. As you said, riba is an important subject, and I've been doing it for a long time. And actually, the more I do it, the more it becomes confusing. And I will explain that later, because it is very much a subject that depends on how sensitive you are, how conservative you are. It really, truly is. I wish, of course, we had a machine that we can put any structure in and it would tell us if it's riba or not. But this does not exist. So unfortunately, we have to use our best judgments and, most importantly, the words of our scholars to let them decide what is actually riba. It's very easy to fall into the trap of any time you don't like something, you say this must be riba, when it may not be. Okay? So let me start with a few things about riba to show you the complexity and the issue of riba, interest, and usury. First of all, riba is not interest. People have got it wrong. Interest and usury are different than riba. Only a part of them is riba. Only one part of interest is riba, not all of it. And there's a reason for that. First of all, interest and usury are the same words. They're exactly the same words. Usury is just the old word for interest. You'll find it in many dictionaries and so on. It will tell you. Usury is the archaic form of interest. This is what it used to be called. So it's the same thing. Later, when of course Europe abandoned the prohibition of interest, they split the words. And interest became the normal and acceptable interest, and usually became the unacceptable interest, which is the excessive interest. And so there were laws saying if you charge above 5% or above 7%, this is usury and not allowed. And interest became the normal things that everybody sort of accepted. But they're actually the same thing. There is no difference between. Riba is not that. The reason is that because the word interest, really, if you look at it and you study it from all its aspects, has a meaning of simply the cost of funding. When you get into a funding situation, whatever the cost, we call it interest. Let's take a simple example. I wish to buy a car for 50,000 dirhams. I can go to my bank and get a loan. The bank can say to me, I will charge you 10%. What do we call that? We say this is interest, of course, right? If you ask a non-Muslim, say, why don't you go to the dealer and buy it straight from the dealer on installments? He will go to the dealer, and there are some dealers, of course, as you know, equipment, they will actually give you credit, of course. They will actually sell you on installments. They don't need to buy. So if he goes to the dealer and the dealer says, yes, the car is 50,000 dirhams, I will sell it to you for 60,000 in installments, what will the person think? He will say, the extra money is interest. It is also interest, because to him it's just an economical thing. It's if I'm paying for it, it's interest. That's not what Sharia tells us. Sharia tells us if you are selling, you are a seller, and you have a right to increase the margin. That's not that. You can call it interest if you like. Call it as much as you want interest, but it's not riba. It is not the forbidden riba. This is why you have halallahu al-bay' wa harram al-riba. They know exactly what riba is and what bay' is. Bay' is when you are an owner of something and you sell it. In this case, you are allowed to make a margin. You are allowed to sell more. Today, unfortunately, we have, and for a long time, and we've talked about this because I've been in Islamic banking for a long time. We have said to the Islamic banks, please don't use the word non-interest banking. Because what happens is that those who don't know, they see an Islamic bank, they go to an Islamic bank to try to get funding, whether it's a house or a car and so on. They say, hey, wait a minute, you are charging me interest. How come you say you're non-interest? It should be non-riba banking, because these two are different. Interest on money is not allowed. If you add a margin on a sale, it is allowed. This is a very important point, and people still have this issue. I don't know why people still have this issue. I suppose perhaps it hasn't been explained properly. I suppose there aren't enough things maybe in English because many people do not read Arabic. Many institutions do not have, I think, special sessions like you have doing today on Riba to try to explain to people, perhaps for all these reasons. But it can lead to serious confusion. It can lead to serious confusion because 2 months ago, I read an article by a Muslim brother. And he is basically saying that the riba that is forbidden in the Quran is only excessive interest. And his claim as to why that is, he says, because the word riba has been translated into the word usury into English. I sent him, brother, the Quran is Arabic. It is not what is translated. This is simply the best effort of people. It is the Arabic word riba. There is no scholar in history really would tell you that it's only excessive, it's any amount. So, you know, he gets confused and he thinks the word usury is used, therefore it must be excessive interest. This is the only riba. We cannot have that. Really, something as basic as that, it's very difficult for me, you know, been this for a very long time, that, you know, that we can have that somebody could actually think that it's only if it's a big amount. If it's a small amount, it's okay. We need to correct that. So this is interest, usury, and riba. Difference between them.